In the heart of ancient Rome, where marble columns kissed the sky and the scent of freshly baked bread wafted through bustling streets, love danced on the edge of both ecstasy and despair. It was a season of Lupercalia, a time when the air buzzed with the promise of romance and mischief. Yet beneath the revelry lay the rigid chains of societal expectation. Amidst the laughter and the clinking of goblets, Claudia, a patrician's daughter, found herself torn between duty and desire. Her father, a man of influence, had promised her hand to a wealthy senator, a union forged for power rather than passion. But Claudia's heart whispered the name of Marcus, a soldier of humble origins, his eyes as deep as the Tiber and his spirit as fierce as the legions he served. They met in secret, their stolen moments filled with the warmth of whispered affection and the thrill of forbidden touch. Letters exchanged under the guise of night became their lifeline, inked with dreams of a future that seemed as distant as the stars. Yet, the shadows of Roman law loomed large. The Lex Julia, a decree imposing strict penalties on adultery, threatened to turn their love into a crime, a betrayal that could shatter lives and reputations. Claudia's heart raced at the thought of such a fate, for the consequences of their love would not only bind her to a loveless marriage but could also lead Marcus to a brutal punishment, exile, or worse, death. As Lupercalia's festivities reached their zenith, Claudia stood at a crossroads, the sounds of laughter echoing around her like a haunting melody. Would she choose the safety of her station, or dare to follow the call of her heart into the tempest of forbidden love? In a world where affection could lead to ruin, the stakes were impossibly high, and the price of love weighed heavily upon her soul. Introduction to anti-adultery laws in ancient Rome. In the intricate tapestry of ancient Roman society, love and fidelity were entangled with the rigid threads of law and morality. The Romans held a deep reverence for marriage, which was not merely a union of two individuals but a cornerstone of social stability and family lineage. This reverence birthed a framework of anti-adultery laws, known as the Lex Julia de Adulteris Coercandis *, enacted by Augustus in 18 BC. Aimed at curbing infidelity and preserving the sanctity of marriage. These laws reflected the societal norms of a civilization that prized honor above all. Adultery was viewed not just as a personal betrayal but as an affront to the integrity of the family and, by extension, the state. Punishments varied significantly, depending on the status of the individuals involved. A married woman caught in the throes of infidelity could face severe consequences, including exile or execution, while her lover, if of lower status, might escape with little more than a fine. In contrast, a man could often evade repercussions, especially if he engaged in liaisons with slaves or freedwomen. This disparity highlighted the patriarchal structure of Roman society, where a man's honor was less susceptible to tarnish than a woman's. Yet, amidst this backdrop of rigid laws and harsh penalties, the human heart often yearned for connection and love. Societal constraints made romantic relationships a delicate dance, filled with both sweetness and struggle. It was within this complex framework that the stories of lovers unfolded, weaving tales of passion, longing, and defiance. A love amidst the shadows. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the bustling forum, Aurelia sat at her window, pen trembling in her fingers. The parchment before her lay bare, a blank canvas awaiting the ink of her heart. Outside, the vibrant sounds of Lupercalia echoed through the streets, the air thick with laughter and the scent of blooming flowers. Yet, within her, a tempest brewed. Aurelia, the daughter of a prominent senator, was bound by the chains of an arranged marriage to Marcus Flavius, a man whose ambition overshadowed her desires. Her heart, however, belonged to Lucius, a soldier of the legions, whose fierce spirit and tender gaze ignited a flame within her. Their love, birthed in the shadows of the city, was a secret whispered beneath the stars, a flicker of hope in a world that sought to extinguish it. On this night, as the festival raged on, Lucius would return from the battlefield, and Aurelia's heart raced with anticipation. Their clandestine meetings were a balm to her soul, each stolen moment a rebellion against the suffocating expectations that surrounded her. She recalled the first time their eyes met, amidst the throng of a market, where the scent of fresh bread mingled with the laughter of children. In that instant, the chaos of the world faded, leaving only the promise of something beautiful. But the reality of their love was fraught with peril. The laws of Rome loomed like dark clouds overhead, threatening to shatter their fragile happiness. If discovered, Aurelia would face exile, stripped of her family's name, while Lucius could be condemned to the gallows. Yet, the risk only heightened the thrill of their love, transforming each encounter into a precious jewel. As night fell, the city transformed into a realm of flickering torchlight and shadowy figures. Aurelia slipped from her house, her heart pounding in her chest, her pulse a drumbeat of defiance. She made her way to the secluded grove where they had first declared their love beneath the watchful gaze of the gods. There, under the boughs of ancient oaks, Lucius awaited her, his silhouette framed by the silvery glow of the moon. "Aurelia," he breathed, his voice a caress that enveloped her. "You're the light in my darkest days." With each embrace, they wove a tapestry of dreams, sharing whispered promises and stolen kisses. Yet, the specter of their reality loomed ever closer. "What will we do when your father demands you marry Marcus?" Lucius asked, his brow furrowed in concern. "I will not be bound by a man I do not love," Aurelia replied fiercely, determination igniting her spirit. "My heart belongs to you, Lucius. We shall find a way." But even as she spoke, doubt crept into her mind. The laws of Rome were unforgiving, and the weight of her family's honor pressed heavily upon her shoulders. How could their love withstand the scrutiny of a society that deemed her unworthy of choosing her own fate? As the festival of Lupercalia reached its climax, Aurelia and Lucius stood at a crossroads, their hearts intertwined yet burdened by the chains of circumstance. In that moment, they understood the true cost of their love, a price that could tear them apart. Yet, in a world filled with rules and expectations, their hearts whispered a singular truth. Love, in its purest form, was worth every risk, every struggle, and every sacrifice. In the shadow of the Grand Forum, where the whispers of power and ambition echoed through marble columns, Claudia found herself torn between duty and desire. Each day, she donned the intricate stola, a symbol of her family's prestige. Yet her heart pulsed for Marcus, the valiant soldier whose laughter danced like sunlight across her soul. Their secret meetings beneath the ancient oaks of the Palatine were a tapestry of stolen kisses and fervent promises, woven together with the threads of danger, for the specter of the Lex Julia loomed over them like a vengeful specter. As the festival of Lupercalia approached, the air crackled with the intoxicating scent of rosemary and myrtle, and the laughter of revelers filled the streets. Aurelia, Claudia's confidante, faced her own torment as her heart yearned for Lucius, a man of humble origins, yet rich in spirit. Their clandestine glances spoke volumes, each one a silent defiance against the chains of arranged marriages that bound them. Claudia and Marcus exchanged letters, inked with the fervor of their love and the anguish of separation. Each word was a heartbeat, a vow that transcended the constraints of their world. In moments of doubt, Claudia would trace the lines of Marcus's letters, finding solace in the promise that love, with all its trials, was worth every risk. Their love story, though fraught with peril, was a testament to the indomitable spirit of the heart, whispering a timeless truth. That true love, fierce and unwavering, can illuminate even the darkest corners of fate. Historical context and social norms. Title: Whispers of the Heart. Beneath the golden light of the Roman sun, the bustling streets of Pompeii thrummed with life. Vendors shouted their wares, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the vibrant aroma of ripe olives and fragrant herbs. It was a day like any other, yet for Claudia, it was an hour of longing that would soon alter the course of her life forever. Claudia, a daughter of the plebeian class, had grown accustomed to the expectations that weighed heavily upon her youthful shoulders. Her father, a stern man with ambitions for ascendance in the tumultuous social hierarchy of Rome, had arranged a betrothal to a wealthy patrician, a man she had never met. The thought of a loveless marriage filled her with dread, yet it was a fate she felt powerless to resist. As she sat in the shaded atrium of her family home, the cool marble under her fingertips offered little comfort. The gentle rustle of the curtains in the breeze was drowned out by the thoughts swirling in her mind. She longed for adventure, for passion, for a love that would set her soul aflame. Yet, the chains of duty bound her, and the specter of scandal loomed over her heart. It was during the festival of Lupercalia that fate intervened. The air was thick with excitement as the people of Pompeii donned garlands of ivy and exchanged playful jests. The festival, steeped in ancient traditions, celebrated fertility and the coming of spring. It was also a time when young men and women were permitted to mingle freely, a brief respite from the rigid structures of Roman society. Among the throngs of revelers, Claudia caught a glimpse of Marcus, a soldier recently returned from the frontiers of Gaul. His presence was magnetic, tall and rugged, with a wildness in his dark eyes that promised adventure. They had exchanged fleeting glances in the past, but this time, the world around them faded into a blur as he approached. "Claudia," he breathed, his voice low and rich like the wine they drank. "May I steal a moment of your time?" With a nod, she took his hand, feeling a jolt of electricity between them. They slipped away from the crowd, winding through the narrow streets, their laughter echoing against the ancient stones. Beneath the cover of a blooming fig tree, they shared secrets and dreams, their hearts entwined as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over their clandestine rendezvous. Days turned into weeks, and their bond deepened, each stolen moment a testament to their defiance against the constraints of society. Letters exchanged in the shadows of the night became their lifeline, Marcus's flowing script filled with promises of love and escape. "Claudia, meet me where the river meets the sea," he wrote one fateful night, his words igniting a spark of hope within her. Yet, the weight of Roman law hung heavily over their heads. Adultery was a crime punishable by severe consequences, especially for a woman like Claudia, who was expected to uphold her family's honor. A single rumor could unravel her world, leaving her exposed to the harshest of fates, shame, ostracism, or worse. The thought of her father's wrath was a specter that haunted her dreams, yet the thought of living a life devoid of love was unbearable. One fateful evening, as the moon bathed the city in silver light, Claudia made her decision. She would meet Marcus by the river, not just to share her heart, but to forge a path toward freedom. As she slipped away from her family home, her heart raced with the thrill of rebellion. But destiny, it seemed, had other plans. Unbeknownst to them, a watchful eye tracked her every move. When Claudia arrived at their meeting place, the river flowed serenely, but the tranquility was shattered by the sound of footsteps approaching. It was her father, accompanied by the patrician she was to marry, a man whose eyes gleamed with a sense of entitlement. "Claudia." Her father thundered, his voice filled with rage and betrayal. "You dared to defy your family?" In that moment, the weight of her choices bore down upon her. The sweet whispers of love turned bitter as the reality of her situation unfolded before her. She stood torn between the life that had been chosen for her and the love that had ignited her spirit. Marcus, hidden in the shadows, clenched his fists as he witnessed the unfolding drama. He knew that if the truth of their love was revealed, Claudia would face the wrath of society, a fate far worse than mere separation. "Claudia, come to me," he called out, his voice filled with urgency. But Claudia felt the pull of her family's expectations, the chains of duty that had long shackled her spirit. With tears brimming in her eyes, she faced her father, a mix of anger and desperation coursing through her veins. "I cannot be a mere pawn in your ambitions. I choose my heart, my love." The confrontation that ensued was a tempest, a clash of wills that echoed through the silent night. But in the depths of her heart, Claudia knew that love, no matter how forbidden, was worth fighting for, even against the tides of ancient law. The river continued to flow, a silent witness to a love story steeped in both sweetness and struggle, echoing through the annals of time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the sprawling city of Rome, Claudia stood at her chamber window, clutching a letter that bore the familiar, scrawled handwriting of Marcus. The evening air was thick with the scent of blooming laurel and the distant sounds of the Lupercalia festival, the laughter, the music, the raucous joy of the city celebrating life and love. Yet, within her heart, a tempest brewed. She gazed out at the throngs of revelers, their faces alight with freedom, while she remained tethered to a fate dictated by her father's ambitions. The weight of her impending marriage to Senator Flavius pressed heavily upon her, a gilded cage that stifled her spirit. But in the solitude of her room, the letter whispered promises of a love that transcended societal boundaries. Each word ignited the flicker of hope within her. A hope that perhaps, one day, she might choose her own path. In the dim light, she recalled her secret meetings with Marcus, the stolen glances, and the tender exchanges that felt like stolen moments from a dream. Their love, born in shadows, was a rebellion against the rigid structures of their world. With every beat of her heart, Claudia longed to cast aside the shackles of expectation and embrace the wild, uncharted territory of her desires. But as the laughter of Lupercalia echoed through the streets, a sobering truth settled upon her. Love, though fierce and unyielding, was fraught with peril. The laws of Rome were merciless, and the threat of Lex Julia loomed like a specter over their forbidden affair. She knew well the consequences of defiance, yet the thought of a life without Marcus was a torment she could scarcely endure. In that moment, she vowed to fight for her love, to challenge the very fabric of Roman society that sought to confine her. And so, as the moon rose high, casting its silvery light upon the city, Claudia made her choice. She would not allow the chains of obligation to extinguish the fire within her. Instead, she would seek out her beloved amidst the chaos of the festival, for in the embrace of Marcus, she found her true self, a daring heart beating against the constraints of a world that dared to define her. And in this tumultuous dance of fate and passion, Claudia understood that love, in all its forms, was the most powerful force of all, one that could ignite revolutions, defy laws, and forever alter the course of their lives. The role of women and marriage customs. Whispers of the heart. Beneath the golden light of the Roman sun, the bustling streets of Pompeii thrummed with life. Vendors shouted their wares, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the sweet aroma of ripe figs and honey. Among the throng, a young woman named Livia wove her way through the crowd, her heart racing with an emotion that both exhilarated and terrified her. For Livia, life was not merely about the daily grind of fetching water or weaving cloth. It was about the clandestine letters hidden beneath the floorboards of her modest home, letters that spoke of love and longing, penned by a soldier far from her sight. Marcus, a centurion in the Roman army, had captured her heart during one of the rare festivals that marked the Roman calendar. Lupercalia, with its wild celebrations and frenzied abandon, had been the backdrop of their first stolen kiss, a moment that lingered like the lingering notes of a lyre. Yet, their love was fraught with peril. Livia was the daughter of a wealthy merchant, bound by the expectations of her family to marry a man of high status, while Marcus, though noble in spirit, belonged to a lower social rank, a soldier whose worth was measured in the glory of battle rather than wealth or lineage. As Livia glanced towards the grand villa of her father, a chill crept down her spine. The prospect of an arranged marriage loomed over her like a dark cloud. Her father had already begun to entertain suitors, men of considerable fortune who spoke of alliances and dowries as if they were the very fabric of her being. She knew, deep down, that her heart would never belong to any of them. It belonged to Marcus, whose letters she read beneath the cover of night, each word a balm to her restless spirit. Livia, a voice broke through her reverie. It was Julia, her closest friend. Her expression filled with concern. You must prepare for the feast tonight. Your father will announce your betrothal to Gaius, the senator's son. Livia's heart sank, and she felt as though the ground beneath her was shifting, threatening to swallow her whole. I cannot marry him, Julia. My heart is not his to claim. The laws are against it, you know, Julia whispered, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. If they discover your feelings for Marcus, the consequences could be dire. Adultery is a grave offense in our society, especially for women. You could be ostracized, or worse. The thought of being punished for loving someone was an unbearable weight. The anti-adultery laws of Rome were merciless. They dictated that a married woman caught in an affair could face severe repercussions, including loss of her dowry, public humiliation, or even exile. Livia shuddered at the thought of being stripped of her identity, reduced to a mere shadow of herself in the eyes of society. Yet, love was a force that could not be tamed. That night, as the stars twinkled above the city, Livia found herself in the garden, the scent of blooming roses perfuming the air. She had arranged to meet Marcus in secret, the flickering lanterns casting soft shadows on their faces as they embraced. His presence was a balm to her troubled soul, a reminder that love could transcend the confines of their world. We could run away, Marcus proposed, his voice low and earnest. We could leave all this behind, forge a new life together. Livia's heart raced at the thought, yet she felt the weight of her family's expectations pressing down upon her. And abandon everything? My family, my home? I cannot do that, Marcus. They would never understand. As they spoke, a distant rumble of thunder echoed, a foreboding reminder of the storms that lay ahead. The wind carried whispers of discontent, and Livia knew their love was a fragile thing, easily shattered by the harsh realities of their world. I will find a way, Marcus vowed, cupping her face in his calloused hands. I will fight for you, for us. But the next day, as she sat in her father's villa, surrounded by the laughter and chatter of guests, Livia felt the walls closing in. Gaius, the senator's son, approached her, his smile charming yet predatory. Livia, my dear, he said, bowing slightly, I look forward to our future together. As she forced a smile, her heart cried out for Marcus, the man who saw her as more than an object to be claimed, a mere pawn in the game of social status. She could not let this be the end of her story. As the feast continued, she resolved to write one more letter to Marcus, to tell him of the choice she faced and to seek his counsel. Under the cloak of darkness, she would find a way to preserve the whispers of her heart, even if it meant defying the very laws that sought to bind her. For in a world dictated by power and wealth, love remained the truest rebellion, a force capable of igniting even the coldest of hearts. As the festival of Lupercalia unfolded in a riot of laughter and revelry, the air was thick with the scent of blooming lilies and wine, yet Claudia's heart felt heavy with the weight of her unyielding fate. In the shadow of the grand temples, where the laughter of the elite mingled with the spirited cries of the common folk, she dared to dream of Marcus, the soldier whose letters ignited a fire within her spirit, illuminating the darkest corners of her constrained existence. Each scroll he sent was a lifeline, a whisper of freedom amidst the suffocating expectations of her arranged marriage to a man whose wealth overshadowed his warmth. Their clandestine meetings, often under the silvery gaze of the moon, became a tapestry of stolen kisses and shared hopes. In those fleeting moments, Claudia felt the shackles of societal norms dissolve, replaced by the intoxicating promise of love that transcended class and consequence. Yet, the specter of Lex Julia loomed, a reminder that their love was as perilous as it was profound. With each passing day, the tension between duty and desire grew more unbearable, culminating in a heart-wrenching choice. Either to honor the bonds of family and the expectations of Roman matrimony or to defy the very laws that sought to stifle her heart. As the festival reached its zenith, Claudia stood at the precipice of her destiny, torn between the life laid out before her and the passionate rebellion of her soul, yearning for a love that could shatter the chains of tradition and echo through the annals of time. The Lex Julia and Lex Papia. Underneath the golden rays of the Roman sun, the bustling streets of Pompeii thrummed with life. Vendors shouted their wares, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the sweet aroma of ripe figs. Yet amidst this vibrant tableau, a tale of love unfolded, shrouded in the complexity of Roman law and societal expectation. Claudia, a young woman of noble birth, stood at the threshold of her father's villa, her heart a tempest of emotions. She had been promised to a wealthy senator, a man twice her age whose ambition was as vast as his fortune. The match was advantageous, securing her family's status in the ever-shifting landscape of Roman politics. Yet, Claudia's heart belonged to another, Lucius, a soldier of humble origins, whose valor in battle had earned him a measure of renown. Their secret meetings in the moonlit gardens of her family's estate were filled with whispered promises and stolen kisses, each moment a defiance against the chains of duty. As she gazed out at the horizon, her thoughts turned to the looming wedding day. The Lex Julia, a law enacted to curb adultery and promote moral conduct, weighed heavily on her mind. Under this decree, the penalties for infidelity were severe. For women, being caught in an act of adultery could lead to exile, while men faced lesser repercussions, often merely fines or social ostracism. The law was designed to protect the sanctity of marriage, yet it seemed to uphold the very inequalities that shackled women like her, Claudia. A voice called, snapping her from her reverie. It was her mother, a matron cloaked in the finery of her status. Prepare yourself. We have guests arriving for the celebration of Lupercalia. You must be presentable. The festival, a time of revelry and purification, would soon transform the city into a whirlwind of laughter and merriment. Young men would run through the streets, the hides of goats in their hands, striking those who wished for fertility and love. Claudia's heart raced. Would Lucius be among them? Would he dare to seek her out amidst the throngs of celebrating citizens? Later that evening, as the festivities reached their peak, Claudia found herself surrounded by laughter and music, yet her heart was elsewhere. She slipped away from the crowd, seeking solace in the quiet of the garden where she and Lucius had shared so many dreams. The moon hung low, casting a silver glow that illuminated her path. It was there, beneath the arching vines, that Lucius awaited her, his presence a balm to her restless soul. "Claudia," he whispered, stepping forward, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "I could not bear the thought of you wed to another. You're the sun to my shadow." Their hands intertwined as they shared their plans to escape the confines of their lives. Yet the shadow of the Lex Julia loomed over them, a constant reminder of the potential repercussions. If caught, Claudia could face exile, her family's honor destroyed in the eyes of society. The weight of their love was heavy, yet its sweetness lingered on their lips like the finest wine. As they spoke of their dreams, the laughter of revelers grew louder, echoing through the night. But suddenly, the distant sound of horns and shouts broke the spell. A group of soldiers, celebrating the festival, stumbled into the garden, their cups overflowing with wine. Among them was Gaius, Lucius's commanding officer, a man known for his harshness and adherence to the laws of Rome. "Ah, what do we have here?" Gaius slurred, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight before him. A noblewoman consorting with a lowly soldier. "This will not end well for either of you." Panic surged through Claudia. The laws of the land were unforgiving, and the consequences of their love could destroy them both. Lucius stepped protectively in front of her, his resolve hardening. "We have done nothing wrong," he declared, his voice steady despite the tension. "Our love is true, and it seeks no harm." But Gaius laughed, a cruel sound that cut through the night. "True love? In Rome, love is but a luxury afforded to the powerful. You will both answer for this." With that, Claudia felt the world around her begin to crumble. The weight of the Lex Julia was not merely a law. It was a sword hanging over their heads, ready to strike. Yet, in that moment of despair, she realized that their love, despite the risks, was a force that could challenge the very foundations of their society. As Gaius moved to seize them, Claudia grasped Lucius's hand tighter, her heart racing with determination. "Whatever may come, I choose you, Lucius," she declared, her voice fierce. "Together, we shall face whatever the fates have in store." And so, beneath the watchful eyes of the gods and the looming specter of Roman law, their love, sweet, defiant, and bound by hope, began to weave a story that would echo through the ages. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the terracotta rooftops of Rome, Claudia stood by her window, heart pounding like a drum. The evening air was thick with the scent of blooming myrtle, a fragrant reminder of the Lupercalia festival that had just passed, where couples danced and lovers whispered sweet nothings beneath the watchful gaze of the gods. Yet, for her, the joy of the festival felt like a distant memory, eclipsed by the oppressive weight of her impending marriage to a senator she did not love. In the shadows of the colonnades, Marcus awaited her, clad in the armor that marked him as a soldier of Rome. Their clandestine meetings were a defiance against the rigid societal structures that sought to cage their hearts. Each stolen moment together was a treasure. The way his eyes sparkled with mischief, the warmth of his hand brushing against hers, igniting a flame that no law could extinguish. But the specter of Lex Julia loomed over them, its harsh edicts threatening to sever their bond. Claudia's heart ached with the knowledge that if discovered, she would face a fate worse than death. Yet, in the depths of her soul, she felt the stirring of a rebellion, an insatiable longing for freedom and love that could not be silenced. As twilight descended, she penned a letter to Marcus, her quill dancing across the parchment with fervent strokes. "In a world that seeks to bind us, let our love be the thread that stitches our hearts together," she wrote, sealing her words with a kiss, casting her hopes into the night. And so, in the shadows of Rome, where love dared to challenge the very foundations of society, Claudia and Marcus clung to their dreams, their hearts intertwined against the storm of convention. Their love, though perilous, burned brightly, a beacon of hope for those who dared to dream beyond the confines of their world, legal and social consequences. Underneath the golden rays of the Roman sun, the bustling streets of Pompeii thrummed with life. Vendors shouted their wares, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the sweet aroma of ripe figs. In the midst of this vibrant chaos, Julia, a young patrician woman, navigated the crowded marketplace, her heart heavy with the weight of a secret that could unravel her entire existence. Julia was betrothed to Marcus, a wealthy senator's son, a union forged not out of love, but of political convenience. Their marriage was to solidify the influence of their families, a common practice among the elite of Rome. Yet, each day that passed in her gilded cage only deepened her longing for the freedom of true love. It was during the festival of Lupercalia, a time when the air was thick with the scent of sacrifice and the promise of fertility, that she first met Lucius. Lucius, a soldier of humble origins, had returned from the front lines, his heart still beating with the adrenaline of battle and the dreams of glory. His dark hair tousled by the wind, he caught Julia's eye as he stood amidst the revelry, laughter spilling from his lips like the wine that flowed freely around them. In that moment, amidst the laughter and music, Julia felt something stir within her, a feeling she had never known. Their eyes locked, and she felt time pause, the world around them fading into a blur. As the festival raged on, Julia found herself drawn to him, their conversations weaving a tapestry of shared dreams and desires. They exchanged letters, hidden beneath the floorboards of her chamber, where no prying eyes could discover their forbidden love. Lucius wrote of the battles he fought, both on the field and within his heart, yearning for a life that seemed forever out of reach. Julia poured her soul into her responses, her ink stained with tears and passion. Yet, The specter of Roman law loomed over them like a dark cloud. The Lex Julia and Lex Papia were mere shadows of the love they cherished, designed to uphold the sanctity of marriage and enforce penalties for those who strayed. Adultery was a crime that could dismantle lives. For women, the consequences were particularly harsh. A married woman caught in the arms of another could be banished or even executed, her fate sealed by the very laws that were meant to protect her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the cobblestone streets, Julia knew she was playing a dangerous game. The walls of her home echoed with the laughter of family and friends, oblivious to the turmoil that raged within her. The weight of her impending marriage to Marcus pressed down on her like the oppressive summer heat. But the thought of a life without Lucius was unbearable. One fateful evening, as the moon bathed the city in silver light, Julia made her decision. She would meet Lucius at the edge of the Forum, a place forgotten by the revelers, a sanctuary for their stolen moments. With her heart racing, she slipped out of her home, her feet barely touching the ground as she hastened towards their rendezvous. When she arrived, Lucius stood there, silhouetted against the moonlit ruins, his eyes alight with a mixture of hope and desperation. Their embrace was electric, a fusion of souls that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. "We must be cautious," he whispered, pulling back to gaze into her eyes. "The laws of Rome are merciless." Julia nodded, her heart aching at the truth of his words. "I cannot bear the thought of losing you," she breathed, her voice trembling. "But my family's honor. My life is at stake." Days turned into weeks, and their secret meetings continued, each moment more precious than the last. But the more they loved, the deeper they descended into danger. Julia's heart swelled with the joy of their connection. But the shadow of the Lex Julia loomed ever closer, threatening to snuff out the light of their romance. Then, one fateful afternoon, whispers began to swirl through the marble halls of her home. A servant had seen her with Lucius, and the specter of scandal loomed large. Julia's heart raced as she overheard her father discussing the need to uphold their family's honor. "If she has sullied herself, she must be punished," he declared gravely. Time was running out. She must act before the chains of her destiny pulled her back into a life devoid of love. In her heart, she knew what she had to do. As the sun rose on a new day, Julia penned a final letter to Lucius, her hand trembling as she poured her heart onto the parchment. "Meet me tonight," she wrote, "and let us flee. For love is worth any sacrifice, even if it means defying the gods and the laws of man." That night, under the veil of darkness, Julia took one last look at her home, the place that had been both a sanctuary and a prison. She slipped into the night, her heart pounding like the drums of war that once echoed in Lucius's tales. Together, they would challenge the very foundation of their world, seeking a love that could withstand the test of time and tyranny. The path before them was fraught with danger, but their hearts beat as one, united against the unforgiving tides of fate. In the heart of Rome, where marble columns kissed the heavens and the scent of fresh bread wafted through bustling streets, Claudia found herself ensnared in the web of societal expectation. The festival of Lupercalia approached, a time when the city pulsed with a wild abandon, momentarily casting aside the chains of duty and decorum. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Claudia slipped away from her father's opulent villa, her heart racing with the thrill of rebellion. In a secluded garden, beneath the watchful gaze of the gods, she met Marcus, whose rough hands bore the marks of a soldier's toil. Their clandestine meetings were a tapestry of whispered dreams and stolen glances, as letters exchanged filled with promises of a future unbound by the shackles of arranged marriages. Yet, looming above them was the specter of the Lex Julia *, a law that threatened to shatter their fragile bond with harsh retribution. As Aurelia, Claudia's steadfast friend, wrestled with her own heartache, the two women found solace in their shared plight, clinging to the hope that love could transcend the rigid confines of their world. The laughter and revelry of Lupercalia wrapped around them like a warm embrace, if only for a fleeting moment. Yet, as the festival's lights dimmed, reality loomed, reminding them that in a society steeped in tradition, the heart's desires often came at a perilous cost. In this world where love battled against duty, Claudia and Marcus stood on the precipice of a choice: to surrender to the unforgiving tides of fate or to fight for a love that dared to defy the very foundations of their society. As they clasped hands under the watchful moon, a silent promise echoed between them, a defiance against the world that sought to keep them apart. In the embrace of night, they vowed to cherish their love, no matter the trials that lay ahead. And so, the story of their hearts entwined unfolded. A testament to the enduring power of love amidst the shadows of a rigid world. Notable examples of adultery and its fallout. Underneath the golden rays of the Roman sun, the bustling streets of Pompeii thrummed with life. Vendors shouted their wares, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the sweet aroma of ripe figs. Yet, amid this vibrant tableau, a shadow loomed. A forbidden love that threatened to unravel the very fabric of societal norms. Claudia, a daughter of a wealthy merchant, was destined to wed Lucius, the son of a prominent senator, a union arranged long before her birth. Yet her heart danced for another, a young soldier named Marcus, who had returned from the distant frontiers of Gaul. His tanned skin and calloused hands told tales of battles fought and victories won. But it was his laughter, deep and resonant, that captured her spirit. Their connection blossomed amidst the fragrant blossoms of spring, during the festival of Lupercalia, when the city pulsed with youthful abandon. Couples paired off in joyous abandon, and Claudia found herself alone in the throng, the weight of her impending marriage heavy upon her heart. It was here, amid the laughter and revelry, that Marcus sought her out. He approached her with a boldness ignited by wine and the intoxicating atmosphere of celebration. "Claudia," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. "Let us steal a moment beneath the olive trees. The world can wait." With a glance over her shoulder, Claudia felt the rush of adrenaline. She took his hand, the calloused fingers fitting perfectly against her soft palm, and together they slipped away from the throng. Beneath the olive trees, they shared their first kiss, a soft collision of lips that tasted of wine and sweet fruit. In that fleeting moment, all thoughts of duty and expectation dissolved into the air. But the world outside their secret grove was unforgiving. The specter of societal expectations loomed large, and Claudia knew her heart was a treacherous thing. The laws of Rome were clear: adultery was a crime, punishable by exile, disgrace, or worse. Women bore the brunt of such punishments, often ostracized and reduced to mere shadows of their former selves. For a man like Marcus, the consequences could be less severe, but his honor would be irrevocably tarnished. Days turned to weeks, and their secret meetings continued, hidden beneath the veil of night. They exchanged letters, inked with passion and desperation, which Claudia would slip beneath the floorboards of her chamber, safe from the eyes of her family. Each letter was a lifeline, a promise that love could transcend the rigid boundaries of their world. "I shall fight for you," Marcus wrote one night, "even if the gods themselves stand in my way. I will not let the standards of men dictate the course of our love." But as the days grew longer, Claudia's heart grew heavier. The wedding date loomed closer, and the pressure from her family intensified. She would soon wear the veil of a bride, but her heart belonged to a man she could not claim. The thought of being shackled to Lucius, of a life devoid of love, gnawed at her soul. On the eve of her wedding, Claudia stood before her mirror, the reflection of a woman torn between duty and desire. As her maid fastened the delicate lace of her gown, she felt as if she were being bound in chains. That night, under the silvery light of the moon, she slipped out of the house, her heart pounding with trepidation. Marcus awaited her at the edge of the vineyard, his eyes reflecting the moonlight like twin stars. "You came," he breathed, relief flooding his features. "I cannot bear the thought of a life without you," she confessed. tears brimming in her eyes. "But I am to be wed at dawn." "Then let us flee," he urged, his voice a low murmur filled with desperation. "We can escape to the coast, live as we wish, far from the reach of those who would bind us." The promise of freedom hung tantalizingly in the air, yet Claudia hesitated. "And what of my family? My honor?" "Your honor is but a chain, Claudia," he pleaded. "Love is the only thing that can set you free." In that moment, the weight of her future pressed heavily upon her. Would she forsake everything she had ever known for a love that burned brighter than the sun? As dawn's first light began to creep over the horizon, she realized that the true punishment for adultery was not the laws of Rome, but a life lived without the one her heart yearned for. With a resolute heart, she took Marcus's hand. "Let us go," she whispered, her voice steady with conviction. Together, they turned away from the life she was expected to lead, ready to embrace the uncertainty of love against the backdrop of a world that demanded conformity. As they disappeared into the golden light of dawn, the weight of the past fell away, replaced by the promise of a future forged in their own choosing, an act of rebellion against the laws that sought to confine them. In that moment, love triumphed, and the world, with all its intricacies and challenges, faded into the distance. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon of ancient Rome, casting a golden hue over the city's marble facades, Claudia stood by her window, clutching a letter from Marcus. The parchment, yellowed with age and smudged by the ink of his hurried script, bore the weight of their clandestine love. Each stroke of his quill echoed the heartbeat of her desires and fears, a reminder of their stolen moments amidst the oppressive shadows of societal expectation. The Lupercalia festival loomed like a bittersweet promise, a time when the streets would pulse with the laughter of couples. Yet Claudia felt the icy grip of her impending marriage to a wealthy senator. She longed for the warmth of Marcus's embrace, the soldier whose heart beat in time with her own, yet the specter of *Lex Julia hung over them, a relentless reminder of the consequences that awaited should their love be discovered. In the midst of the revelry, as the sounds of celebration filled the air, Claudia and Aurelia met in the hidden alcoves of the forum, where whispers of affection mingled with the scent of blooming laurel. Aurelia, too, was ensnared in the web of arranged unions, her heart tethered to Lucius, a brave soldier fighting for the empire. Together, they shared their dreams and fears, bound by the understanding that their love, though forbidden, was a flame that could not be extinguished. As the festival began, the throngs of jubilant citizens danced, their joy a stark contrast to the turmoil in Claudia's heart. She envisioned a future where she and Marcus could roam freely, unencumbered by the chains of their social standings. But with each passing hour, the reality of their situation loomed larger, threatening to suffocate the tender embers of their affection. Underneath the flickering lights of torches, Claudia felt a surge of determination. She would not let the chains of tradition bind her spirit. In a world that sought to define her, she would carve her own path, even if it meant defying the very laws that governed her existence. With her heart alight with purpose, she resolved to meet Marcus at the sacred grove during the Lupercalia, a place where love dared to flourish against all odds. In that moment, as she penned a final note to him, the ink flowed like the river Tiber, carrying with it the hopes of a young woman ready to embrace the chaos of love, even if it meant risking everything. The letter, sealed with a kiss, would be the bridge between their worlds, a testament to a love that, though fraught with peril, shone brighter than the stars above the ancient city. Claudia knew that their journey would not be easy, the road ahead was paved with uncertainty and danger. But in the depths of her soul, she felt the unyielding strength of love, a force that could conquer even the most formidable of barriers. And so, as she slipped into the night, her heart raced with the promise of tomorrow, where she and Marcus could finally embrace the love that was rightfully theirs, unbound and free. The legacy of anti-adultery laws in Roman society. In the grand tapestry of Roman life, where power, politics, and passion intertwined, The presence of anti-adultery laws served as both a shield and a sword for the protection of familial honor and social order. These laws, codified under the Lex Julia de Adulteris Coercandis during the reign of Augustus, were not merely punitive but were also reflective of the societal values that revered chastity, fidelity, and the sanctity of marriage. As the sun set behind the Palatine Hill, casting long shadows over the bustling forum, whispers of infidelity could lead to scandalous repercussions, echoing through the marble corridors of power and the humble abodes of the plebeians alike. To understand the legacy of these laws, one must delve into the motivations behind their establishment. Augustus, a ruler keenly aware of the moral decay he perceived in Roman society, sought to restore traditional values through legislation. The Lex Julia not only criminalized adultery but also imposed severe penalties. Women caught in the act faced exile, while men could be subjected to public humiliation, their names forever stained by the mark of dishonor. The repercussions extended beyond the individuals involved. Entire families could be thrust into disrepute, their social standings hanging precariously by the thread of personal conduct. Yet, in the heart of this rigid framework, love blossomed. Forbidden romances flourished in the shadows of societal expectations, igniting the fires of passion amidst the chill of legal repercussions. Take, for example, the tale of Livia and Marcus, two souls from disparate social standings caught in the throes of a love that defied the conventions of their time. Livia, a noblewoman, was promised to a wealthy senator, her future dictated by the whims of her father. Marcus, a young soldier stationed on the front lines, penned letters filled with longing and desire, his words a stark contrast to the rigid confines of their world. As the festivities of Lupercalia approached, the streets of Rome were alive with anticipation, the air thick with the scent of sacrifice and the promise of fertility. Young men, clad in the skins of goats, would run through the streets, striking women with strips of leather in hopes of promoting fertility and love. In the midst of this chaotic celebration, Livia and Marcus found their clandestine moments, stealing kisses beneath the flickering torches, their hearts beating in sync with the rhythm of the festival. But the threat of discovery loomed large. Livia understood the stakes. A rumor could lead to her exile, and a scandal could obliterate Marcus's future as a soldier. Their love, pure and unfettered, was marred by the fear of societal judgment, each stolen moment fraught with the knowledge that they danced on the precipice of ruin. In the stillness of the night, under a canopy of stars, they crafted plans for a future that seemed ever elusive. "If only I could take you away from all of this," Marcus would whisper, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the nearby torchlight. Livia, with tears brimming in her eyes, would reply, "And leave behind my family? My duty? Love cannot exist in a vacuum, my dear. It is woven into the fabric of our lives, even when it seems a burden." Yet, as the seasons turned and the echoes of their love grew louder, the weight of their choices became unbearable. Livia faced the impending marriage that would bind her to a man she did not love, while Marcus received word of an impending campaign that would take him far from her side. In a desperate attempt to preserve their love, they exchanged tokens, Livia a delicate bracelet, Marcus a clasp bearing the insignia of his legion, a promise that their hearts would remain intertwined despite the chasm of duty and societal expectation. As Marcus marched away, the sun rising over the horizon, Livia stood upon the balcony of her villa, the weight of her heart heavy with sorrow and determination. She knew that the laws of Rome did not bend for love, yet she also understood that the spirit of love itself could not be extinguished. In the years that followed, as she navigated the labyrinth of her arranged marriage, the memories of stolen moments and whispered promises would guide her through the darkest of days. In the tapestry of Roman society, the legacy of anti-adultery laws was one of complexity. While they sought to uphold the sanctity of marriage, they also illuminated the indomitable spirit of love and the lengths to which individuals would go to preserve their affections. For Livia and Marcus, their love story, though fraught with peril, would echo through the ages, a testament to the strength of the human heart against the rigid confines of societal expectation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the bustling streets of Rome, Claudia stood at her window, the weight of her impending marriage pressing heavily upon her chest. The vibrant laughter of the Lupercalia festival echoed through the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil in her heart. Each beat of the drums was a reminder of the joy she longed to experience, yet it was a joy that seemed forever out of reach. Claudia's thoughts drifted to Marcus, the soldier whose letters had ignited a flame within her. Each carefully penned word was a promise of freedom, a whisper of dreams shared beneath the stars. In the world of patricians and plebeians, their love was a delicate flower, nurtured in the shadows but threatened by the harsh light of societal expectations. She could almost feel his presence beside her, the warmth of his hand gripping hers as they plotted their escape from the confines of duty. Aurelia's laughter rang out like a melody, reminding Claudia of their shared secrets, their whispered hopes. Yet, in the midst of revelry, a sense of foreboding clung to her like the evening mist. The Lex Julia loomed over them, a relentless specter that dictated the boundaries of their desires. As she prepared to join the festivities, she felt the bittersweet pang of fate tightening its grip, knowing that love, while a powerful force, often demanded a steep price. In that moment, Claudia understood. Love is not merely a feeling but a revolution. It is the courage to defy the chains of expectation, to risk all for a fleeting glimpse of happiness. With the festival lights illuminating her path, she resolved to embrace that revolution, to carve out a space for her heart amidst the rigid structures of Roman society. As the night wore on, she danced with abandon, each step a defiant declaration of her love, a promise that, no matter the cost, her heart would remain unshackled.